Welcome to Uncanny X Minutes, where we bring you the comics behind the movies. I'm Stasia.
I'm Producer James.
And we're here to watch the final minute of X-Men First Class, minute 130 to 131.
This is commitment to the bit.
Yeah.
There's
one singular minute.
There's one singular minute, and it's all credits.
Yeah, so you may ask, what are you going to talk about? Well, there's plenty of things to talk about.
There are plenty of things to talk about, but specifically this week, I don't even know where it was. I made a note that was like, come back to this, we'll talk about it later. We don't have time right now. Let's start by saying that the Marvel Universe has been around for, what, since the 60s? 80 years now? 80 plus years?
Crazy.
The very first, like the birth of the Marvel Universe, like the 616, everyone can agree it is Fantastic Four #1.
Yes.
If Fantastic Four #1 happened in the 60s and you add 80 years on that, they'd all be dead by now. So a lot of people...
Well, except for maybe Wolverine.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying the Fantastic Four period. Maybe the Thing, yeah. I could see him still being alive. As you read comics for a long period of time, you at some point you ask yourself, hey, why are none of these characters aging? It's been decades. That you could kind of like MST3K it. It's just a comic book. You should really just relax. Like, there is an element of just don't worry about it. It is what it is. The Simpsons don't age either, and we don't worry about it. The only thing that, for me, as an X-Men fan, it makes it weirder is Magneto, specifically.
Yeah, he's set in such a very specific period of time that gets more concerning the further away we get from it.
Sure does.
Yeah.
You can also lump in Nick Fury Sr. He was World War II. And actually, Reed Richards and the Thing were both World War II soldiers.
A lot of that going around.
Right. You also have Professor X was in the Korean War. You've got Tony Stark being in the Vietnam War. Like, they specifically named these wars when they were originally written.
Not to mention that there are plenty of other, like, modern, like, events that happen in comic. Barack Obama is in a comic.
Oh, for sure.
Like, there are... Like, real life events get tied into comic books that continue. It's not just the backstories. Like, there are things that happen later in modern comic books that, like, set up, like, weird periods of, like, overlap, right? Where you're like, okay, so these people existed at the same time here. Nixon
also was in the comics. Like, there are some presidents that are in the comics, but as they get a little more savvy, I feel like, they tend to not list specifics as much, like to tell the year or like who is president. Sometimes it's just the president, or more importantly, like the mayor of New York has changed hands 1,000 times in the comics, and half of them are supervillains or superheroes.
Yeah, they're not synced up to mayoral elections.
No. They're always emergency ones. Don't worry about it. As time has gone on, they've gotten better about like don't worry about it. Even when you read like Hoxpox, the beginning of Hoxpox says X years ago, which could be read as 10 years ago, but which I think is the point of that one, is that it's supposed to, like, they do it in powers of 10. But you also could read it because they do use the X days, X years, X months, earlier, later, whatever. They do continue doing that. I like to think it is a variable. As like
it is like, yeah, it is. I think that like but it's there to build in they retconned it already. Yeah. Like, they're basically like, you don't need to worry about this. We already recognize it, and we're already acknowledging that this isn't necessarily 100% like synced up.
The overall explanation for this is something called a sliding timescale or a floating timescale. Marvel likes to use the term sliding. And what that means is all the events that are happening in the 616 are happening within this time frame, where the beginning of the time frame is Fantastic Four #1, and the end of the timeline is current day. And every issue between Fantastic Four #1 and current day is squished into this time scale. At first, this has actually been official, but originally it was mentioned by John Byrne for the first time in the 80s. And he said in an interview that Fantastic Four was about 7 years before the current issues that were running. That's the 80s. That's 20 years of comics is like 7 years of time. Not bad. Yeah. The first official mentioning of it was in the Official Handbook of the Marvel Universe Alternate Universes 2005 #1. And that said that it was 13 years ago. The most recent interview was by Tom Brevoort, who is basically, he's the editor of all the X books. He was doing like a question and answer on his Substack, and he said 15 years ago. We are putting more and more time, but it also is flexible. I mean, look at Franklin Richards as a good example. That boy's aging.
Yes, which is like really interesting, right? Because it's like, this is kind of how time affects some people sometimes and other people sometimes and not. And like Franklin Richards is a baby. He then grows up. He is a teenager in Krakoa.
Yeah.
Like that's a long time for him to be a baby. Like, to be honest.
Kitty Pryde has grown up more. She started as a teenager and she's more of an adult now.
Cable. Not when he comes from the future, but like when, Cable's a little different because they've played with his age differently. Yeah, because he skips around in time a lot, right? That's the whole thing. But like there was teen Cable and adult Cable, and like what the time looks like there is also confusing, right? Because you have to understand that it's like the original Cable in the X-Men comics, right? Like it's like the 80s.
Cable's been super old since the 80s.
Right. And he doesn't age at all, really. He's exactly the same. Like, but then his child form kind of, like, he becomes a teenager at some point because we see teen Cable in Krakoa. I think it's very compelling. Like, I think it's really interesting, like, because kids are boring after a while, but sometimes they're not. Because I think part of the reason that Franklin Richards stayed a baby for so long is because he was in Power Pack. And so he had his own comic run with like a bunch of other kids, and like that was like fun. So he was kind of like servicing a younger demographic for Marvel Comics. Right. Until that got boring. And then you have like, you age them up a little bit, and his sister too. You get them in, this is a Fantastic Four thing, but I know it, a Future Foundation.
Yes.
And like you get those stories. And I feel like kind of when they start approaching their teens, like you get like some really cool, interesting stories, but there's like a point at which the angst kind of gets old a little bit sometimes. And I feel like they age them up really, like after that. Like I think Kitty Pryde hit an angst point in which they're like, okay, we're done exploring her angst years. We're going to like push her.
All the New Mutants.
Yes, all the New Mutants. They got older. But I also think that X-Men is weird about this. Like other Marvel comics have a much like, I feel like it's less of an issue. But because they have a school, and the school moves people through, and there's like a graduation, right? Like it is implying an aging that isn't actually happening sometimes. It's just really, it gets goofy.
It's weird for me because like the OG team definitely were teenagers when they started, and now they're supposed to be maybe in their 30s, mid 30s, maybe early 30s. It's hard to say. And then they get new students, but so, like you said, the New Mutants are now early 20s, maybe mid 20s now. But then you have someone like Magic who is running hard with the X-Men and is definitely like older, it feels like sometimes. But then you've got characters like Moon Girl, who I don't think they're ever going to age. Like she kind of has to stay
living
young.
in a demographic. Yeah.
Right? Like anybody who's in like the Avengers Academy, that one's a little hard too, because I feel like some age and some might not.
Depends on how popular they are.
Right,
That's
exactly. Because like Peter Parker, like when they started Spider-Man, the time scale was a 1-for-1. Whatever the year was whatever year he was in. And then they ended up having to time scale it a bit. So like he was in school for maybe 5 years of real time or 7 years, something like that. Very short amount of time considering how many comics come out. And then he's kind of stuck in this middle adult era. Like he's been married and then not married and then still pining after her. And it's like he can't get his crap together. So he's definitely got this like early or like mid to late 20s vibe, maybe 30, maybe, but now he has a doctorate. So it's like, what are you going to do with that?
So, that could still be late 20s though.
Right.
But
So, but I mean, how much time? That's the thing. It's so, because some issues can be like an hour's worth of time, and some issues could be months. So you can't even count how many issues there are.
No. Like, I mean, you have like, and X-Men don't even bother counting issues with all the time stuff that's going on. Don't even bother. It's not going to get you anywhere near what you're looking for.
I find it only compelling because Marvel specifically likes to pull back from old issues. Like, there are major events that happened, and they will always have had happened. Whereas I think when I was doing this research, because I don't read a ton of DC, so I wouldn't know, but the research was saying that DC likes to basically reboot every once in a while, and they don't tend to revert back to old storylines as much.
I don't know. There's something about being able to pull something. It's bad and it's good depending on where you're coming from. Like, if you've read a lot of old stuff like me, I'm like, when I see Candy Southern, I'm like, yeah, bring in Candy.
Yeah.
Like, and if you're a person that is just trying to get into a comic book for the first time, I totally get the appeal for DC, where it's like, I don't want to read 80 years of issues so I can understand what's going on.
Which is why we're here.
I think, right. Yes.
We understand you don't want to read that much. And X-Men are even worse because, like, even picking up Hoxpox, you're like, oh, and here's the 5. Who are any of those people? Who are any of the 5?
I didn't even think about that. Like, if you go in and you don't know who Hope is,
specifically
like, how does
Hope,
that read for you?
You're like, who's Hope
she's
Summers?
Such a nature.
Your first thought, just seeing Hope Summers and like hearing the name Hope Summers and seeing the character Hope Summers, you're like, oh, she's just like another child of Jean and Scott, and she's not.
No, she's Cable's child.
And not even really Cable's child. She's Cable's adopted child. She's not even technically a Summers.
Yeah, but she is now.
Oh,
that's the thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes. I mean, as much as he is absolutely her real father, but not biologically. Yeah. Like, that's the thing.
Yes,
like,
that is
but
correct.
if you walk into a comic book, you don't know that. You just got to assume with the last name Summers, she's Rachel's sister or something.
Right. Who also doesn't belong in this timeline, but let's not even get into that. But yeah,
but
that's the thing, right?
I didn't even assume something. You got to assume something.
Right. I like it because, like, I do think the good writers make it work. And I think this is what you mean by the sliding scale. Like, because, like, you just work around it a little bit. Like, you don't need to know who Hope Summers is in Hoxpox. It's just nice to know.
Sure. And that's, if you write it well, that's all you need to know. You'll know everything you need to know by just keep reading. There is an in-universe explanation for the sliding timescale. So, like, everything
got to do with Galactus.
It does have to do with Galactus, but everything up to this point has been creators talking outside or official handbooks, which I like to reference, but I don't feel like they're as, like, hard canon as, like, reading the books. You know, if you have to write it in a handbook, boy, you didn't do your job well.
I disagree, but that's okay. We can disagree on this point. I think if you have a Marvel sticker on it and you put it out there, that's fair game.
Sure.
Like, but I mean, get where you're coming from.
You've heard our previous episodes. I've referenced handbooks before as canon. Just personally, it's like, man, if I haven't read it, that's like some extended universe nonsense.
Yeah, because, like, I mean, like you were saying, it's like part of knowing, like, part of the long referencing of the characters of people in the past is kind of because you know these things about them and because you read those comics or whatever, and it's kind of like an Easter egg for you. A handbook, you're not even really referencing a storyline people might remember. It's just like a thing that if you read it, like a little snippet, you might know.
But I think it was
I get what you're saying.
The Riptide episode we were talking about, where it was like, oh, those are bone shurikens. And it's like, that hadn't been mentioned yet. Okay, cool. I guess it's canon now.
Or it was like clearly one of those things that's like gonna happen and then they just don't do it.
Right.
And then you're like,
or somebody just read between the lines and like, well, how would he have so many? This is how.
That's true.
Anyway, so Galactus. It is in a book called Ultimates. It's not an Ultimate comic book. The Ultimates is a team that is trying to prevent cataclysmic events from occurring. And it's like, I don't remember the whole team, but it's at least Captain Marvel and Black Panther and Photon at the very least. And these characters bring back Galactus as the life bringer instead of the world eater. It's weird. He's all white and gold now. He basically is like, you don't perceive time correctly. Time isn't what you think it is. You need to think about space-time. And in space-time, I'm going to just quote it because this is the most insane stuff I've ever seen. The present moment, the quote now, hurtles from past to future along a stream of events, and events have weight. Sometimes the weight is vast, sometimes so light as to be undetectable. But some events, those with a peculiar, unique gravity, are caught by the present, dragged in its wake like planets about a sun. Always just a handful of years behind.
Interesting.
I think this gets to the heart of the matter of what we're discussing, where it's like, there are certain events that will always have had happened. Like Genosha is one of those events that has so much weight, it will always be, 5 years ago at the very least. The Fantastic Four is that hard point, though, of always being like the start of the universe. That always happened, and now has always happened. And there's sort of like a ratio that seems to be expanding between the two. But I think even that at some point they're going to be like, nah, we're done. We're done. Stop. It's something. The amount of time is questionable.
Yeah.
I do like the quote that some events are so light as to be undetectable. And for me, that is the, what do we call it? Selective retconning.
Yes.
That this thing happened, but nobody remembers it really happening in like outside of the universe, that we just kind of pretend it didn't happen. And
it disappears into the ether.
And it didn't. It's just we just take that whole storyline and just pluck it out of the timeline, and it never happened.
I love this. I love this interpretation. I think this is such a good, because it gets, like you said, it gets at the heart of the matter, right? It's like the fact that like there are certain things that need to have happened within a certain period of time and like keep up with the person's age. And also like conceptually, like, right, this was such a major thing. Like the universe can't move past it sometimes. So it's like, oh, this always happened 5 years ago. It's always happened 5 years ago. Because it's still like, it seems like the story hasn't processed. And what they mean by that, breaking the fourth wall, is the writers are not done. There's too much juice to squeeze out of this. Like, so we keep writing about it, and it just keeps happened. I really like it. I think it's a good explanation, and I think this is like an example of like why fiction is like, comic books, you can be creative even in your rationale. This is a canon explanation, and it like makes sense to me. It's like, yeah, this is a fantastic universe. Like, sure, why couldn't this possibly? You just have to make it believable enough for me to buy in.
Yeah,
and I bought in, sir.
Photon asks, then the next panel, are you saying the past changes? And Galactus responds, it shifts, slides, as does the future, and then talks about all the different futures that exist. So like we've talked before how Bishop comes from one future and Cable comes from another future, and the Days of Future Past future does exist somewhere too. And they're all possible, they're all probable is what he says. They all can be reached, and they all can reach back. So it sort of ripples both ways. Ripples all ways is what it sounds like.
Yeah, honestly.
It's like fluid. Because like they even say like the past kind of like that sort of is a reasonable retcon of like the past also is a little fluidy, which you kind of need for Hoxpox, honestly.
Yeah. The Moira, we talked about this in the Moira episode. You
all the Moira
really
stuff.
Need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't work without it. There are now explanations, in-canon explanations, for why all this is a little wibbly-wobbly. End of the day, it doesn't actually matter.
It doesn't actually matter in terms of like how the book consumption works. Like, right. Like you talked about at the top. It's like, if you've got a good story and you've got a good book, you don't need to know everything. It's okay to not know that stuff. And even if you do know, it's okay to ignore it, to enjoy like the content as it's being delivered to you.
Yeah.
I also like think that if we're going to look at this floating timescale, we're talking about like how different like events kind of shift things. There's also technically pre-Fantastic Four #1.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like the Fantastic Four #1, it seemed like that's not the first comic that Marvel put out.
No. It is the birth of the modern Marvel universe.
Yes. I think like that's also like a pretty interesting distinction. I was flipping through some stuff, and I actually found this guy. His name is Nick Perron. He's nickperron.com. You can go there to check it out. But he has like a timeline that he put together of the pre-modern era.
Okay.
Because I was thinking a lot about like conceptually, like we have this like sliding scale or whatever, but like we still have all this whole universe that happened that like still sometimes affects the modern era, but not usually. This is, if you've listened to our TikToks and stuff, that's just why half the time like James will be like, this is evil villain. I'm like, I've never even heard of that person, because they just like disappear into the ether and never to be heard from again. But like there are events that like he lists out that happen that are like pretty major to the Marvel universe, and I kind of just wanted to talk about a couple of them just to think about like when exactly stuff is happening. So like technically, according to Nick's outline, which I appreciate, 18 years before the modern era, so 18 years before Fantastic Four 1, Thor is banished to Earth as Don Blake.
Okay.
That happens. So that's Thor 4:15, which is like crazy how long Thor's been going on, but whatever. Like,
well, it was originally, what was it, Tales to Astonish? Was that his?
Something like that, I think. Yeah, I can't remember exactly.
It switched to Thor at some point.
Thor, like, that is like a major thing that's happening in the Marvel universe that like isn't technically modern era, but it has like Thor and Don Blake and his like alter ego as this like medical doctor still is like part of modern comics. Like this is a thing that happened and that like has effects, even though it technically starts after the modern era.
It used to be Journey into Mystery.
Journey into Mystery. There you go.
This
is why I don't have a Thor podcast.
Right. So it's Journey into Mystery first for a while, and it was a bunch of nonsense books. And then it switched to Thor, but they didn't stop the numbering.
Oh, that makes kind of sense, though. I can't imagine that is so confusing, because what you have Thor like whatever 100 and you're like, never mind.
Well, he first appeared in Journey to Mystery number 83.
Okay. But yeah, that's still a lot.
That's still a lot.
The Thunderbolts comics take place a year before the modern era happens.
Whoa.
Daredevil 168 this time, Matt Murdock is going to Columbia. He's 19. Like, I'm also reading the numbers because like it's like something to like think about, like, because it's not just these characters that like kind of all disappeared or kind of melded into groups or whatever. There are like major like events that are happening to people that are relevant, and like, so don't write it off like anything before Fantastic Four #1, because they are still sometimes relevant. That's all I wanted to say.
They do backstories that happened before Fantastic Four #1. It's kind of like in Star Wars. Like when Star Wars started, it was just episode 4. And when they started doing the extended universe and other materials, they started using the Battle of Yavin as the time. And the Battle of Yavin is the Death Star run in Star Wars and A New Hope. So it was BBY. Before the Battle of Yavin is all the stuff before episode 4. And so it's just that is their point in time where everything changed. For us, it's Fantastic Four #1. Like stuff happened before it, and but it's more that they've discussed things, they've fleshed out backstories. Like we've talked before, like they just started issue 1. Here are the X-Men, here are their things. Let's go. But it's like, as time goes on, it's like, oh, Beast was a baby, and that happened probably before Fantastic Four #1.
I just like think it's like it's so interesting, and like also tells you how important Fantastic Four is to the Marvel universe. Yeah, it's not an accident that they choose Fantastic Four #1.
I mean,
to be the turning point,
right? It's funny if I'm just looking. I pulled up the website as well. It's funny to look. This is where the flexible timescale stuff is real weird and kind of fun. So the Power Pack was a kid's book in the 80s. 70s? Did it start in the 70s? Doesn't matter. Started probably in the 80s. So Katie Power is one of the Power Pack. She was born year 1 of the modern era. So was Molly Hayes from The Runaways, and that book is from like 2000. So, like, written 20 years later, those two characters are the same age.
You were right, 1984, by the way, for Power Pack.
And I'm
no
pretty
worries,
sure...
you nailed it.
What?
that's what I mean, right? It's like that is really the sliding scale. That stuff is the stuff that's shifted theoretically.
Yeah.
According to Galactus, right? Because like they really shouldn't be the same age.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It makes sense if you don't think about it too hard.
Right.
You know? Because honestly, generally, only 12 books get published in a year. So you really can't stay with the modern time of like this. Like you start a story in January, it doesn't end until like one arc is about 6 issues. We're talking July. Like June, July, we're finishing this arc. That could be a week. You know, that could be a week's worth of time that happened in those 6 issues. If you extrapolate that over years and years, or even a decade's 120 issues, roughly. And in 120 issues runs, not like a lot of stuff has happened, but like if you go from the 90s to the 2000s, that's a lot of time. Like a lot has changed between 90 and 2000. We are now very much using computers and we're using smartphones, or we're starting to use the internet more in 2000 than we did in 1990. 2025, everybody's got a cell phone. Nobody's got a computer. Unless you're one of the smart guys. My brother-in-law does not have a computer, I found out. He just has like an iPad and his phone. And I was like, I couldn't even imagine not having a computer.
I know. It's like, I think that's the thing that's going to mark me in my old age. It's just like, you kids with just your iPads, I need a computer.
We make a joke. Me and my wife have made a joke that like when you're doing things important, like booking a big vacation or making a large purchase, that is a big screen purchase. You need to bring out the computer and you got to see it in the screen. I'm not going to order, airplane tickets on my phone. I need to see them on a screen. I don't know why I do, but I do. And that will make me an old man.
Okay, this is hilarious. This is going totally off tangent, but this is funny. There was a TikTok trend. I know you didn't see it because you're not on TikTok.
I am on TikTok. I'm just not on it a lot.
Yes. You're not like brain rotted like me. Maybe that's what I should have said. And
I graze.
And yes, you just have a little taste of brain rot. I just submerged myself in it. It was like a joke about like millennials like need big screens for big purchases, but I kind of live on that edge. I will absolutely buy plane tickets on my phone. I have no problem with that. I have no problem like booking like hotels, like whatever on my phone, but like that it's apparently like one of the generational like things that was like, it's like in good fun for the most part, but like it is a thing. And I'm just like, you can't see that in comics in the same way because like you said, time is so weird.
Yeah. Simpsons pulls it off well because they don't care. Like they just don't care. Whatever it is right now is what it is right now. Those kids have been 8 for 25 years and we do not care. Actually, it's even more than 25 years. But it's been 35 years? They've been 8. And who cares? No one cares. It doesn't matter. It would be dumb if they were adults now. Nobody wants that.
Totally.
Same with the X-Men. It is the issue that live action adaptations have, though. We have a Tony Stark in 2008. By Endgame, they're getting older. Not in a bad way, but like at some point you have to retire these actors and let them rest. We won't do it with Wolverine. He's never going away, Hugh Jackman. But at this point, he is still there. We thought we were done with him. He is not done. We are at a precipice of like, what do we do? It is what probably should have happened in the Marvel universe if it were more of a linear time scale, which is you pass the mantle to the next person, but more permanently, not like in the Marvel universe where it's like, okay, Jane Foster's Thor and now she's not Thor.
Right.
Like someone can have the mantle, but then they give it back. Dead. Right. Like stuff can happen and it's fine because it's fun. That's the soap opera of everything. But like live action, you got actors who age. You either need to replace the actor and pretend it didn't happen James Bond style, or you need to hand it off to different characters. And we're kind of at that point, and I think that's why some people have like turned on the MCU is they're like, where are my friends? My friends all retired, and who are these young bucks that are now taking over? They're not the same. They're not my friends.
I'm really excited to see where we go to like because everything's getting rebooted right now.
Right. So we are between X-Men
really,
projects at this point.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to see how they pick up this new cast. And I do know that like I don't think they're going to be passing that mantle any faster. I think they're just going to walk themselves into the same wall because everything I keep hearing from casting is like, we're getting super young kids. Like,
we're getting teenagers and we're going to run them till they're 65.
Literally, that's like what we're gonna run them like we run Hugh Jackman, like we should have done from the beginning. I was like, okay.
I mean, like where we are recording right now, Fantastic Four just came out, and it's like Pedro Pascal is an old guy, but he's not a young guy.
He's not 20.
He's not 20, so like he doesn't have 40 years to be playing Mr. Fantastic, most likely, but. We'll see.
The only
thing
about Mr. Fantastic is that he is an older guy. He always has the gray.
Sure.
So they're gonna get away with that, I think, because of that character in particular.
Right.
But yeah.
So we'll see. Yeah. We'll see what happens. I'm never one to poo-poo. I'd love to see what they have to do.
Great. All right, we've definitely blathered on for too long.
Yep.
I'm Stasia.
I'm Producer James.
And we'll see you for the next movie.
Oh.